Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you. Thank you for lowering the volume in the room. I appreciate that so we can get started while the last few people are finding their seats. Hi, my name is Lou Cinquino. I am the board president here at Community Action, and on behalf of the entire board, I want to welcome you and thank you for being here today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the interest in our work and the chance to getting to meet you and know you a little bit better. Before we start, there are a few public thank yous I want to make to the board of directors at Community Action. First of all, our officers and also the entire board. I think we're going to have a slide here. So if anyone who's an officer, a current board member, if you could stand and remain standing, I want to make sure everybody kind of knows who we are. And I also want to thank you for the work. You know, it's a very large and complicated task that we have, and I really appreciate your leadership, your advice, the resources that you bring to the agency. There's also, I want to make a special thank you for the board members whose terms have ended this year. And so if any of our friends here are here today, they could also be recognized and stand, as well as the new board members who have just joined or are about to join our board. We've got a lot more coming in. So if you could also stand and be recognized, and actually if there's any former board members that are here today, I'd also like to recognize the work. The work that we do today is certainly built on the shoulders of people who have been serving in the agency before. So one more round of applause for that team. So today we're gathered for this. Affordable housing is a human right. So that's a very wide and very profound statement, and one that has implications for every corner of the Lehigh Valley and the surrounding communities. And as I'm becoming more involved in some of these conversations and these meetings about this topic, there's one phrase that keeps coming up. And it's one that's said with a little bit of doubt and a little bit of disappointment. And that phrase is called a drop in the bucket, right? A drop in the bucket. As in, no matter what we seem to do, whether it's transitional housing, rehab housing, weatherization, any other work that we're doing at the Val, at Community Action, or that you're doing in your work, that it just seems like it's just a drop in the bucket compared to what the problem is that we're facing. And while that may be true at one level, I want us today to take a look around at the table that we're gathered at and take a look around this room at the 400 or more people that are here that have come here because of this, right? That's a lot of drops in the bucket. And each one of those drops makes a difference to the people that we are working with and the families that we touch with our work. And over time and together, those drops can fill those buckets, and we believe can create rivers of hope and oceans of opportunity for every family here in the Lehigh Valley, the Slate Belt, and all our surrounding communities. So I want that to be our intention today, not be discouraged by the fact that we're drops in the bucket, but be encouraged that there's so many of us with the same intent to make life better here in the Lehigh Valley. So with that intention today, I want to turn the rest of the program over to our Executive Director, Dawn Godshall.
Thank you, Lou. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. This is the largest group of annual meeting attendees in the history of Community Action, so thank you for joining us today. We'd like to thank our sponsors, and in the consideration of time, if you could please hold your applause until the end. Our Fighting for Good sponsor, Penn Community Bank. Our Economic Opportunity sponsors, Lehigh Valley Health Network, Highmark, Encore, King, Spry, Herman, Freund and Fall, TD Bank, and Lehigh Valley International Airport. Our neighborhood revitalization sponsors, Working Dog Press, BSI Corporate Benefits, ESSA Bank and Trust, QNB Bank, HMK Insurance, IBEW Local Union Number 375, Clifton Larson Allen, and People's Security Bank and Trust. Our Community Action Advocate sponsors, M&T Bank, St. Luke's University Health Network, Office Basics Workplace Solutions, First Northern Bank and Trust Company, Fidelity Bank, Embassy Bank, Phillips and Donovan Architects, and Richard and Susan Master. Thank you to all of you. We'd like to acknowledge our local legislators and their representatives with us today. If you could please stand. Thank you also to our NPP partners for Bethlehem, Allentown, there's a lot of them, and the Slate Belt. Thank you. Community Action Lehigh Valley is an anti-poverty nonprofit with a mission to improve the quality of life by building communities in which all people have access to economic opportunity, the ability to pursue that opportunity, and a voice in the decisions that affect their lives. We offer programs and services in advocacy, business startup and development, food access and nutrition, housing, neighborhood revitalization, and youth. We have more than a dozen programs of which you can find out more about all of the great things we accomplished this past year inside of the annual report at your seats. We're here today to address a pressing issue that is not just a Lehigh Valley issue, but one that is looming across our country. The issue of affordable housing is not just a problem, it's a crisis. It's a challenge that, if left unaddressed, will continue to affect the well-being of individuals and families from all walks of life. Affordable housing is more than just a catchphrase. It's a vital cornerstone of any thriving community. To be truly affordable, housing should consume no more than 30% of a family's income. Unfortunately, this benchmark remains out of reach for many, as the demand for affordable housing exceeds the supply. According to the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission, renters make up approximately 86,000, or 1 in 3 households in the Lehigh Valley. Even as more rental units are built, prices have increased. While higher-end luxury apartments cater to a portion of the region's renters, it's vital to ensure that affordable units are also available to meet the housing needs of low to moderate income residents. A lack of affordable housing options faces a family to allocate a disproportionate share of their income to housing expenses, leaving less for other essentials such as food, health care, and education. This perpetuates a cycle of poverty that is challenging to break without adequate housing assistance. Since the affordable housing crisis began to peak, our Second Harvest Food Bank has seen a 44% increase in food distribution. That's almost unbelievable. Community Action 6th Street Shelter is also feeling the impact of the housing crisis. Homelessness is especially hard on children, disrupting a child's sense of stability and security, making it challenging for them to develop a sense of belonging and attachment. We are grateful, however, that because of the stellar staff at Community Action 6th Street Shelter, there are positive stories that arise even during these trying times. Heidi, a former shelter participant, has gone from homelessness to being a landlord.
I want to first start by the year that I began was 2016. I first started with my 2 children that are here with me. And what led me into the circumstances that led me to here was trusting certain people in my life, depending on others. They were there for me, 6th Street Shelter. They helped us in every way. We had weekly meetings. They were super helpful with me and the kids. They attended to any of our needs, anything that we needed in our homes, in their schools, anything that they were just always there for me, extra help, and they never let us down for anything. But I wanted to do something that would impact my children's life, that in the future, I can be able to say I did this for them. Right now, I have a business cleaning company that I have, and we also bought a property probably like a year ago that we own, that we rent out in Allentown here. And we're just gonna keep building up from there. The cleaning business has gone really successful. We've been in it for over 5 years now, but license has been probably like the last 2 years. I believe when I went to 7th Street, the transitional housing program, that really helped out a lot. I was there for 18 months, and during that 18 months, I was able to go to school, have a part-time job. My children were taken care of in childcare, and it gave me the opportunity to focus on myself and my kids in order to be able to be successful, and that was really a big help for all of us. What made me feel more empowered is their help, is that opportunity that they gave me from the beginning to the end. And that definitely helped me feel more empowered at the end, more stronger than when I began. Having my kids watching me has been a big change for me. They have seen me grow. They have seen me lift my head up when I couldn't. I had to hold back a lot of tears and a lot of hits just to make it through. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be standing. They're learning how to be self-empowered. They're learning that even if things go wrong, that it's a process through everything in life. And even if something knocks us down, we have to just get back up again and we'll make it.
We are proud of the good outcomes that our programs produce. And while we love telling positive stories, the stark reality is that the 6th Street Shelter's participants as a whole have been severely impacted by the housing crisis. The shelter was designed to provide a safe and productive place for families to be for up to 90 days. However, families are staying far longer, sometimes up to a year, because they can't find affordable housing to which they can transition. Having families move out after 60 to 90 days makes room for other homeless families to get the help that they need. So as the crisis escalates, so does homelessness. I'm sure that most of you know this, but unbelievably, the minimum wage in Pennsylvania is still $7.25 an hour. Although the Pennsylvania House of Representatives has approved a measure to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour by 2026. We must increase wages as an additional measure to help families afford rents and utilities and the ability to support their households. The fair market rent for a 2-bedroom apartment in the Valley is about $1,400 a month. That means each household earning the minimum wage must have 2 to 3 full-time jobs in that household in order to make ends meet. But we are not here today to despair. We are here to act, to make a difference, and to bring about change. Addressing the affordable housing crisis in the Lehigh Valley necessitates a comprehensive, multi-pronged approach. In addition to supporting higher wages, we must work to increase the housing supply, explore rent control measures, and strengthen tenant protections. We must promote mixed-income housing developments and establish community land trusts to ensure that land remains affordable in perpetuity. Implementing rent control measures and strengthening tenant protections is essential to prevent unjustified rent increases and evictions. Promoting mixed-income housing developments can create diverse communities while promoting affordable options for those in need, reducing the stigma associated with affordable housing. Tax incentives could also incentivize developers to invest in affordable housing. We will hear from one of them in just a few minutes. Addressing this crisis requires a collaborative effort from policymakers, developers, nonprofit organizations, and the community at large. Grants and subsidies can help these organizations expand their impact and outreach. Community Action is one of those nonprofits which emphatically cares about its neighbors. It would not have the footprint that it does without the expansive and visionary mark of a former employee. I just returned from a Pennsylvania Community Action Conference in Lancaster. When the gentleman I was sitting next to asked me what community action I was from, I told him the Lehigh Valley. He said, you took over for Alan Jennings, the bear poker. I laughed and said, yep, that's him. So without further ado, although I feel like I have to put a disclaimer in here for the things that he might say, but I'd like to welcome our former executive director, the bear poker himself, Alan Jennings.
I was recently in Holland and fell in a museum and tore the tendon in my quad muscle. And so I have that on top of the Parkinson's, so you have to forgive me. But I'm here to fight anyway, so we'll see how that goes. First of all, I want to say hello again to all my former coworkers who I love every one of you, and it's great to see you again. Thanks to all of you. And especially my friend Don Godshall, who I have so much respect and appreciation for. First, I want to apologize to all of the good people in this room for being such a surly bastard for so many years and just making your lives so difficult. Complaining about the problems constantly that we're ignoring and being self-righteous and never letting us off the hook. So I'm sorry. Just kidding. Don, thanks for letting me have another shot at these folks. I appreciate it very much. So about housing. Talk to just about anyone who deals with lower-income people, and they'll tell you that we have a crisis, a calamity, a disaster. All three cities have recently done extensive needs assessments. The Morning Call did a series of articles that was very good about the problem. In 1984, I held a press conference in Easton warning about the coming affordable housing crisis. So most low-income families have housing costs that put them at risk of eviction from their rentals or a foreclosure that could cost them their homes. More than half are in such situations. Talk to any builder or developer in the Lehigh Valley, and they'll tell you that they simply cannot create a unit of housing in the free market. It doesn't work. They can't do it. So we have a failure of the marketplace. Keep in mind that 80% of the median in the Lehigh Valley is 40% of the population. This is a huge issue for a huge number of people, including, I'm sure, many of the people in this room. When I was at Community Action, we tried to develop a site just up the hill from our headquarters. We got the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Resources to let up on certain stormwater runoff rules, and we had $1 million in equity on a $6 million housing development in the neighborhood of the Forte building, just literally right up the street. 38 units overlooking the Lehigh Valley from South Mountain, and we couldn't make it work with that kind of direct support. Dave Evans, who is trying his best to retire as the CEO of the Housing Association Development Corporation, will tell you that they have to put $100,000 plus into, $200,000 into a ratty old house to make it livable, and they can sell it for maybe $115,000. So we're talking about a massive gap between what's possible, how it works, and how it doesn't work. Rental housing is even tougher in the Lehigh Valley. For 25 years, we provided staff support to a coalition of groups called the Lehigh Valley Coalition on Affordable Housing. We tried everything. Nearly everything you'll find in these plans that are coming from our three cities is stuff that we recommended in the past and, frankly, rarely worked. We did everything we could to try to shave the costs off of the development of housing. Habitat has its model of cheap labor, of volunteer labor. We had a great run using the federal low-income housing tax credit. Banks stepped up in a big way. The banks, I think, in the Lehigh Valley are the best banks in this country when it comes to community reinvestment. We had housing trust funds that generated $500,000 a year from the two counties. And we pushed to weaken the township's resistance because, they're doing everything they can to make sure certain kinds of people never live in those townships. And yet, despite all that, we barely moved the needle. We need serious policy intervention in the marketplace to solve this problem. Shelter from the storm, to use Bob Dylan's phrase. How many of you in this room live in subsidized housing? Can you show your hands? How many of you live in subsidized housing? Really, predictably, none of you. How many of you in this room today use the mortgage interest deduction on your federal income taxes? Come on, you have a mortgage, you're using the mortgage interest deduction. That is subsidized housing. That is the government saying we're going to not collect as much income, tax from you as we should, because we want you to have a home, right? And the kind of houses that we're talking about are the big ones. Not only will we subsidize that first house, but we'll subsidize your house at the beach or your house at the lake. The only right to housing in this country is the mortgage interest deduction. It costs our federal treasury $60 to $100 billion a year. And it is only those people who can afford a mortgage, who have a mortgage, who are entitled to a housing subsidy. Poor people have no such subsidy or no such entitlement. There's something desperately wrong with that equation. So we need zealots to stand up and lead this battle. I'm done. I can't do it anymore. Unfortunately, there are very few elected officials who have any desire to own this cause. The business community talks, it won't walk. The state legislature doesn't get it, and the Congress has practically defaulted on this issue, cutting HUD funding over and over and over again. Must be pretty tough to be a bully against poor people like that. We need some things to happen. Let me give you what I would consider the top 5 or so. First, we need a source of consistent, reliable funding. One would be to increase the amount of fees that can be charged for recording mortgages and deeds. We now do that for about $35 per transaction. We ought to increase that to $100. Don't let anybody tell you that's going to kill a single real estate deal. It's not. It's not going to hurt anything to generate that resource, and it would generate another $700,000 to $1 million more for housing development. Second, every new development that has at least 20 units in it, 10% of those units should be required to be affordable for low to moderate income people. Third, we should transitionalize federal housing subsidies. I know that's not a word, I made it up. But, you know, when you want to get into subsidized housing, you wait in line, and you typically wait 3 to 5 years. When you finally get to the top of the line, it's often hard to find a landlord who will accept the subsidy, and you often have to go back to the beginning again. But if you get in, if you're lucky enough, it is the pot of gold for low-income people. It is the most valuable subsidy low-income people can get. And once you get it, you can have it basically for life. I think that's wrong. I think that we should make it so that people can only have that subsidy for 5 to maybe 7 years, and then it gets phased out and you're on your own. But during that period of time, you're expected to do what you can to improve your income, because you've got the resources to pay attention and focus on your career development. Third, nope, that was third. Fourth, we need a renewed commitment to home mortgages by our banks. You know we're not doing what we used to do. We got to do it again. Finally, homelessness is a pox on any claim we might make to being a great nation. As long as our robust economy drives up housing costs and the value of some labor is so little, we will have homelessness. Homelessness is a function of a robust economy, driving up housing prices but undervaluing labor. Too many homeless adults don't want to deal honestly with their issues. Frankly, I don't feel a lot of responsibility for those who are unwilling to kick their habits. We simply can't help someone who doesn't want to help themselves. We need to turn about 32 to 4-bedroom apartments into shared housing with strong casework services for those individuals, people with behavioral health problems. Hospitals are well positioned, they've got the resources, and they understand the problem to do that role. It's time for them to step up. I know they're doing some of it, we need to do a lot more of it. We can solve these problems. We lack the will. I started these comments with an apology. That's about as humble as I can be. But if we indeed want to believe we are a great nation, or that our behavior is consistent with our faith, or that the Lehigh Valley is as good as we want it to be, we have work to do. I can't think of a better place to start than with community action and the big people in this room. This is a good room full of people. These are the people who are most concerned about their neighbors. And you all know that you're not comfortable doing enough. There's so much more that we have to do. The other asset we have is a member of Congress who, I don't think there's anybody that packs more punch into a smaller frame in the United States Congress. There are 435 people in the House of Representatives. And if you watch the news like I do, man, you got to wonder how in the world anybody with a sense of sanity can go there day after day and fight the stupid battles that are being fought when we have real needs like homelessness in our communities. But somehow Susan Wild has got those guts, and she's got the resilience, and she's got the intensity to represent us effectively in Congress. So I have the pleasure of inviting my longtime friend and this agency's longtime friend to the podium, Susan Wild.
Good morning, everybody. It's actually very uplifting to be here. Times are tough in Washington, and I make no secret of the fact that I'm much happier when I'm back here in Pennsylvania 7, and I haven't been nearly enough lately because we've had repeated weekends where we have been kept there. I've been fortunate enough to be home since Saturday and to have made it to a few events, and I think this might be my happiest and best event yet. First of all, I'm really happy to see that the room is full. And Dawn, I'm so happy to hear that this is your best attendance ever. That says a lot for Community Action Council of the Lehigh Valley. Alan, I don't know where you went, but let me just say that thank you for your stewardship of this organization for so long. And quite frankly, thank you for your I don't call it surliness, your crustiness, for your bluntness. Sometimes people spend too much time trying to be diplomatic and nice about issues to the point where nothing gets done. And yeah, your trademark has been real talk, bluntness. And this is a subject, obviously, that demands it. So thank you. And thank you to everybody here. For caring enough about this issue to show up and listen and be part of some of the drops in the bucket that Lou spoke of. Because every single person in this room is a sparkling drop in a bucket, which feels like it's taking way too long to fill all those buckets and get things done, but we are getting some things done. I've seen it firsthand in the last 5 years. As your member of Congress, I've visited some transitional housing and some new public housing, and I've seen places like what Shiloh has done in Easton and what New Bethany does, and it's just, these are all, to me, part of what makes the Lehigh Valley such an amazing community to live in. It is that kind of working together and partnership, even though we haven't yet, by any means, solved this problem of affordable housing. I truly believe, as my button says, thank you for this, that affordable housing is a human right. There is not much that you can do in life to get ahead if you do not have a safe and secure roof over your head. If you are couch surfing, if you are homeless, if you are living in a shelter on a long-term basis, if you are perpetually in fear of eviction, that is almost the only thing you can think about. It's very hard to focus on your children if you have them, on bettering yourself, on, God forbid, going back to school if you can't even think about how you're going to afford a place to live. And so I do believe that affordable housing is a human right. And I say that proudly, and I don't say it in the least bit reluctantly, and I am sure there are many people who would be happy to take me on that issue, the same people who would like to tell me that affordable quality health care should not be a human right, which of course it should be. But what we know is that without affordable housing, and by the way, the term affordable housing even, you see things that are considered affordable housing. Maybe they are in terms of the gross price, but you have to also always factor in what does it cost to get into that affordable housing? What has to be done? Some of you may be familiar with a brand new member of Congress, freshman this year, Maxwell Frost, the youngest member ever of Congress, who came to Washington with a not so great credit rating and found out that his first paycheck wouldn't be received until February 1st, but that he needed a place to live as of January 3rd. And so he started looking at apartments and found out that he needed the first month's rent, the last month's rent, and a security deposit. Oh, and by the way, his bad credit rating made him ineligible for anything close to the Hill. So Max actually couch surfed for a month and a half until he got his first paycheck. But that was such a telling story. It was picked up by a lot of news outlets, and a lot of people were sort of almost sneering at it, like, how does somebody come to Congress and they can't even afford an apartment? Well, first of all, I will tell you, apartments in Washington are really expensive. Those of us in Congress actually have to pay for our own housing in DC in addition to whatever our housing is back home. If you've been around for a while and you've accumulated some savings, and if you're fortunate enough to find a roommate, which all of us do, you can cut down on that, but that's still a pretty expensive thing to do. So here we had this freshman member of Congress, who, by the way, has turned out to be phenomenal, who could not figure out where he was going to live for that first month in Washington. And that's just an extreme story, because this is the kind of thing that is happening all over the country to people who are not members of Congress, to people who are hardworking or want to work hard, who want to make a good living, but without a roof over your head, it's really hard to do that. It's really hard to do that. And so I think that affordable housing isn't just something that people should be entitled to, that it is their right to have, but it is also something that affects our entire community, our entire economy across the United States. How many of you have heard employers and manufacturers and everybody else say, I can't get enough workers? Well, I know that you don't have to raise your hands because I know you've all heard that. So if you can't live anywhere close to a place where a job is, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to figure out, how am I going to get there? How am I going to take this job? Yeah, they might be hiring, but you know, how am I going to get there, and how am I going to take a shower in the morning, and all those kinds of things. And so it becomes an economic issue, not just for the individual, which I think first and foremost is the most important. When I say the individual, I'm talking about the family. I'm talking about the children. I'm talking about people who are bouncing around because they have no good place to live. But if you want to look at it in a bigger way, if you want to look at it in a way that I often talk about it when I am conversing with my colleagues who don't necessarily see it as a human right, I talk about it in economic terms for the country and the community. So that's one way of thinking about it. But we know that we have this critical shortage of affordable homes. And without getting into all the statistics, I will just tell you that I have conversations with people all the time. And my fabulous, amazing team here in my district office has conversations with people all the time who are trying to figure out how they are going to afford to live here. And so without talking any further about the need, because I think we're all here, we understand what the need is, the question becomes, what are we going to do about it? And we have kicked this can down the road for way too long. Thank you, Alan, for your point about subsidized housing. Yeah, I raised my hand on the question of whether I take the mortgage interest deduction. I didn't raise my hand on whether I live in subsidized housing, but you are absolutely right. That subsidy is only available to people who own homes. And I have to tell you that over the last few years, as rents have really started to skyrocket in the Lehigh Valley, I have come to realize how privileged I am that when I first got married in my 20s, that we were able to buy a very small house that the landlord, we rented for a year and a half, and the landlord decided to finance, and that was our first home. And from that, we went to another pretty modest home and another, and so I now feel, you know, I've been a comfortable homeowner for quite a long time. A couple years ago, when mortgage rates started to go crazy low, every person out there with a mortgage went and refied, including me, by the way. And what that did, if you're able to refi, it brings down your monthly payment because you're paying a lower interest rate. At the same time, people who were renting apartments, their apartments their rentals were going sky high. And the only way so the subsidy that Alan spoke of, you also get subsidized in the sense that there's so much more you can do to free up additional income or to reduce your cost of living in the way that I just mentioned. So what I really believe is that the only way we are ever going to really solve this problem is to accept as a country that it deserves a full-throated, multi-pronged approach. I do believe that the federal government very much has to be involved. Listen, I will say the local folks here, I mentioned a couple of them, have really done wonders. But talk about drops in a bucket, that's not any way to approach a massive nationwide housing crisis. It's got to start with the federal level. It's got to be taken on at the state level. It's great to talk about increasing the minimum wage from $7.25 an hour to $15 an hour, but guess what? You're not going to be buying a house even at $15 an hour. And then you've got all of the fees and associated expenses, and you got to find a bank that's willing to be your lender. And a lot of that can only happen if the federal government gets involved in providing incentives for lenders to help people get into affordable housing. I'm a member, by the way, of the Affordable Housing Task Force in Congress, and we spend a lot of time brainstorming what we can do in the way of legislation that would actually bring about some of these changes, and I plan to continue to work on that space. I think it is one of them. It's super important in our district, but it's important across the country. I will tell you that some of the work that we have done in the last few years, the American Rescue Plan in particular, marked a transformative investment in local governments and local communities, and a number of our municipalities and our local organizations were able to get some of their housing priorities off the ground because of that. But it's not enough. We have not yet done enough. We cannot stop because we've made a little bit of progress. I was very happy to see that earlier this year the administration took action through the Housing Supply Action Plan to lower housing costs and boost supply. But here we are in an area, we are the fastest growing region in Pennsylvania. I tell people that all the time. People come from elsewhere, they move here because of our thriving manufacturing sector, our thriving healthcare systems. There are a lot of good jobs in this area. But what does that do when all of these people move in? What it does is it raises home prices because they're moving from New York or New Jersey or Connecticut. So the prices here look pretty darn good to them, so the prices go up, and what does that do to all of the people who are already here? I mean, I know I'm telling you things that you don't know, but all of these things have to be taken into consideration. So economic development, I think it's great. I think it's wonderful that we are thriving economically, or at least at the business level here in the Lehigh Valley. But now we've got to do the corresponding piece of that, which is making sure that the people who are already living here are not getting shut out of the housing where they've either lived for a long time or that they've been trying to get into. And we have to do more to make sure that middle-income folks are able to become homeowners in the communities that they work in. And I stress homeowners. We need to get rents down. We need to make sure that we are dealing with slumlords and code violators and that kind of thing. But we all know that the ticket to building a comfortable future for yourself is homeownership, in the same way that I described in my own case going back to my 20s. And there's a bill out there, the Affordable Housing Credit Improvement Act, which would help us to build more affordable homes, but would also affect how the credit part of that is processed for people applying for those homes. And I just want to make sure that we are, at a federal level, doing things that really push money out there and down. I'm a big believer that at the federal level, people in Washington should not be making decisions about where your tax dollars are spent, that it needs to be figured out at the local level, because we know what our priorities are, what we really need. And they're not going to be consistent across the country. So we brought back a few years ago community project funding, and I'm very happy that some of the funds that I was able to bring back through that were able to support transitional housing, and we also brought back a choice neighborhood planning grant for Bethlehem. Those are the kinds of things that we can do, but it cannot be piecemeal. There needs to be a 35,000-foot view on what we are going to do about housing in this country. It has to start at the federal level, it needs to be continued at the state level, and then it needs to be pushed down to the local level to assist the builders, the realtors, the bankers, the people who want to get into this affordable housing, do so. So the bottom line is, I'm here as your federal partner. I want to support all of your work. I am always open for ideas. Please bring them to me. I'm happy to make phone calls, talk to my office and ask for a phone call, and I'm happy to give it to you. It's going to require collaboration. It's going to require all of us to work together. It's going to require all of us to be more sparkling drops in the bucket. But I do believe, at least here in our community, just knowing how good the people here are, how good the organizations are, that we can do it. I would love to see us be a model of how we got it done. And I just want to tell you, I'm here as your partner, and I want to work with you on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman Wild. And I just want to apologize in advance. We're probably running about 7 minutes behind because of when we got started, but we're going to try to speed this up as much as possible. Many landlords also experienced losses during the pandemic, some not able to pay their own mortgages due to the loss of rental income from properties that they owned or leased. We take that into consideration as well. But during what was a trying time for many, some landlords took advantage of a looming opportunity. Government money was flowing, and some saw an opportunity to raise prices, leaving many renters with few options. They either worked harder and longer hours to make up for the increase, or they faced eviction. But make no mistake, there are good guys in this fight. Landlords who understand the importance of providing affordable housing for hard-working people. Property owners who could easily cash in on the high demand for housing, but who instead care enough to make some of those properties affordable to those who need it. Take a listen.
Our business has a focus on solving people problems, and one of them inflicting most people today is shelter, and affordable shelter.
The prices are too much. The prices are rising everywhere in Allentown. I was on 45 South Franklin Street, struggling to pay my rent, struggling to do a lot of things. Looking for apartments, it was terrible. It was unaffordable. I couldn't save anything.
To address affordable housing, it really takes a village. It takes for-profit, non-profit developers. It takes municipal involvement. I think the mindset, especially in a smaller community of us versus them, really needs to be a thing of the past, and it needs to be us, all of us. We've had a strong relationship with Community Action in Lehigh Valley. Pretty much since the inception of our company, we work with them through their various rental assistance programs. We really try to focus on doing work on the tenant side to be able to make the paperwork efficient so that they can address an issue as needed. Collaboration is really the key to being able to move the needle when addressing the housing crisis. There's House Bill 581 that was passed that allows local taxing authorities to create a pilot program for affordable housing. And so there's tools and things that we can do like that that will help incentivize private developers to address this issue.
I was kind of struggling, getting an apartment, getting everything. I got so much help from the community, especially Jonathan and Peter. They're amazing. They got me comfortable. I remember I came here to their office and they showed me the apartment. It's been a real blessing for me.
We believe that every company, for-profit, nonprofit, has a corporate social responsibility. And so it's important to us to be able to do that and to build a company culture where it's not just oriented or driven towards profit, but rather we're enhancing and developing our community.
If it's not for housing, people like us, we would be in the street. My experience here is wonderful. I feel secure. They are here in the office close by. It's like a family, and I love it.
So thank you to Jonathan, who is one of our heroes. Another hero in this fight is our very own Chuck Weiss. Chuck recently made the Lehigh Valley Businesses 2023 Power List for construction and real estate. He's smart, he's witty, he's both lovable and kind. We're extremely proud that he's one of ours. Chuck Weiss.
Hi everybody, I'm Chuck Weiss. Dawn made me limit the jokes I was going to tell today, so it's not going to be my normal stuff. But good afternoon, I'm the Associate Executive Director of Housing and Community Action Lehigh Valley. Many people know I love a good dad joke, but there's nothing funny about the state of our housing across the country and here in the Lehigh Valley. With vacancy rates at an all-time low, housing and rental production rates that are below the predicted need, diminishing affordable housing stock, it's all clear to us that we're facing a housing crisis. Along with our partners at the federal, state, and county levels, as well as private sector partnerships, we've been looking for ways to address this housing crisis. Community Action administers several owner-occupied housing repair initiatives, facade improvements, along with crisis and weatherization programs. These services not only improve the quality of the life for the participants, but reduce the energy costs and help maintain the current stock of affordable housing. Without these programs, many of our participants would be faced with high energy costs and inability to replace roofs and effect necessary electric repairs and replace heaters. To accomplish this work takes partnerships. We have found great partners in both Northampton and Lehigh County, and we've been fortunate to collaborate with Habitat for Humanity, the City of Allentown, St. Luke's, on an initiative in the Jordan Heights neighborhood in Allenton, and just show how much we can get accomplished when we all work together. Our weatherization and crisis programs continue to serve a large number of participants in the Lehigh Valley, providing homes with better insulation levels, better air quality, while stabilizing the HVAC systems and providing increased efficiency. A few years ago, Community Action implemented an energy-efficient rehab program that works in tandem with our existing weatherization programs to comprehensively lower the energy costs for our participants. Early data from this program shows significant monthly costs in electric and gas bills, along with a healthier home environment. The number one reason for homes deteriorating beyond repair is failing roofs. To address this issue, we partnered with Lehigh and Northampton County to administer roof replacement programs. This is by far our most requested home repair and has been highly effective in preserving housing stock in the Q County area. This year alone, we saved over 24 homes. Community Action is currently administering the whole home repair program for Lehigh County. This program has provided funding for approximately 60 home repairs and additional money for supporting workforce programs and construction. This program received a lot of press, and it revealed an incredible need. On May 19th, we opened applications for this program, and before the end of the day, we had filled all the slots. To date, we received over 1,000 calls from Lehigh Valley residents looking for help, and we can't serve them. Please encourage your elected officials to continue to support this program. And we have not stopped at home repair. Community Action is constantly building or rehabbing homes for sale to low-income participants. These projects are expensive and take time, but they offer a well-built, affordable homes that are energy efficient. All participants receive first-time buyer education from our Housing and Urban Development approved housing counselors, and in the last year we sold 3 homes and have 2 more coming on the market before the end of the year. We are currently rehabbing a home in partnership with the City of Bethlehem on the south side and another rehab in the planning stages in Allentown. We also have plans for 7 new construction homes in Northampton County in the near future. With all this program, Community Action has served over 600 housing participants this year. The amazing housing team includes Mike Hanzo, Mike Austin, Susan Gottwald, and Chris Marks, along with numerous dedicated staff members. While we have focused on home repair and home ownership, we realize the need for affordable rental units, especially for people transitioning from homelessness. To address that need, we are always looking out for viable projects that fit our mission. Earlier this year, we were contacted by Wes Hyatt, an architect and professor at Lehigh University. Through a growing collaboration, we are currently working on the Alley House program with the City of Bethlehem, Lehigh University, and New Bethany. This program's objective is to develop a pilot program for accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, along the alleys in West Bethlehem. All this work requires a lot of funding, your support, encouragement, and involvement. It also requires dedicated staff like those who work for Community Action Homes. We got a call from a consumer who wanted us to let us know just how much they appreciate our administrative specialist, Francesca. Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Wise. My name is Fred Marshall. I'm calling on behalf of Francesca. She is absolutely awesome. I just want you to understand what a valuable teammate you have in her, and how just talking with her, she just put me at ease. She gave me so much comfort. I don't know what's going to come out of this, but, man, I really enjoyed talking with her. I wanted to call you last week, but I just got caught up, and I was busy because my mom, she broke her kneecap. But either way, I just wanted to let you know, because a lot of times, people don't, they don't communicate with the person's superior, or boss, or what have you, about how great somebody is. And it was just like, we got along so well. She understood everything. We just totally related to each other. And I mean, for me and everything that I'm going through, it's very hard to find someone, that can understand. And she shared a little bit with me, her story. And so I know she understands exactly where I'm coming from. And what a valuable person to have on the staff, because they can relate to people. It just means so much to me. And I'm just so thankful to even just speak with her. So I just wanted to let you know that, share that story with you. And God bless you guys, what you guys are doing over there.
In 2021, we were honored to partner with Lehigh County and Catholic Charities as the fiscal agent for the Emergency Rental Assistance Program known as ERAP. ERAP was established as a part of the American Rescue Plan to help families who were directly or indirectly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. In January of 22, we took over full administration of the program and were able to assist over 3,000 households, distributing more than $41 million in rental assistance to the most vulnerable members of our community. Community Action also welcomed the opportunity to get involved, as helping our community is one of our main goals. Let's hear from 2 tenants who benefited from ERAP.
My name is Kenny Berker. I'm a single father from the Lehigh Valley. I've been here a little over 25 years, so I consider this my home. I live in, I guess what they would call a semi-detached unit. I've been renting there for a few years now.
I lived in an apartment where my rent was feasible based on my salary at my job. Unfortunately, I caught COVID twice and was very ill, which put me in a financial setback.
What led me to need the rental assistance was an unfortunate event at the end of last year. My identity was compromised. I also had a few $1,000s stolen from me from a couple of accounts, which kind of had, just a trickle effect over the course of a few months. I also have been in search of a stable position, as a job or a career, what have you, for the last couple of years, and that's been really difficult to find.
During my sickness, I was out for quite a while because I really was really bad off with COVID. The church that I went to recommended your services.
The application process for the assistance was very smooth. The rental assistance that I received impacted my immediate situation in a profound way. I was on the verge of homelessness. That took me from that being on the edge of a cliff to now, having a full-time job and being on the precipice of putting myself in a way better situation. When you're in that kind of situation, no matter what tools you have, it's almost impossible to get through. So that money changed everything for me. I wasn't even able to smile for months, so it was huge for me.
It impacted with great results. It really took the weight off my shoulders. It helped me be able to care for my grandkids that I have guardianship for.
Everything would have changed if I had not received rental assistance. I was at a point where I had already stretched my available resources. My landlord had already, been very gracious with me in helping me through a tough time. I got money from another place. However, without that money, I may have had to move an hour and a half away. I wouldn't have seen my daughter. It could have been really bad for us.
If I hadn't received the rental assistance, possibly the kids could have been transferred somewhere else besides living with me. And I could have lost my apartment. A lot of people are just one step away from becoming homeless. And with children involved, it's not a good thing, for children to suffer. They sleep with no worries. They know grandma got this.
Getting that money helped me, rededicate myself and figure out what I really care about. I've been going around the Lehigh Valley cleaning up parks, with my daughter. It's helped me make connections with other people, and I've been part of more volunteer work and donating blood. So it's just been, it's had a ripple effect across a lot of parts of my life, and it's been great.
It secured what I had already established. And it kind of made me feel like, hey, Leslie, just get yourself together. We're going to do this, and don't worry about it. By the time you're done, we're done with with you and our program, you'll be able to just keep on going.
The importance of these types of programs in our community really can't be understated. It's one of the worst times in American history, especially, for people who don't have much to begin with. So they're really starting to feel the crunch. We do hear a lot now about homeless people, but there are also people who are right on the edge there who could be prevented from getting into that situation in the first place. So I think community action plays a huge role in just adding an extra layer of safety for the community.
I love it, and I'm just thanking God and hoping that they do keep this program for people, hardworking people that try to give their kids the best and want them to live a decent life. This program fits that.
I have nothing but good things to say about the entire process of interacting with, everyone at Community Action Lehigh Valley, through the application process. It was great. Everyone was very friendly, supportive, empathetic, which I really needed at that time, because it can be, embarrassing, to go through these kinds of things, and they just kept, nicely nudging me in the right direction, and also helped, with the communication between myself and my landlord to make sure that, we got the money that we needed to keep us going forward.
So this is a call to action. Why? Because affordable housing shouldn't be a luxury. It's the foundation of a thriving, inclusive, and compassionate community. Together, we can ensure that our residents have access to safe, stable, and affordable housing options. This is our call to action, our duty, and our opportunity to make a difference. If you would like to be a part of this call to action, please scan the QR code on your table or in the program and complete the form, and we will include you in a future gathering on how to do this together, shoulder to shoulder, to build a brighter and more equitable future for the Lehigh Valley. Thank you again to all of our sponsors, especially to Penn Community Bank and to all our supporters listed here. Thank you to all of our staff at Community Action, without whom we would not be able to do the great work that we do. They are the true heroes of our organization and to our community. Could all of our staff please stand? Thank you to the vendors who helped pull this event together: Wind Creek, ASR Media, Marco Calderon, and Working Dog Press.